Hey guys, Amateur Law Prof here. By now you know that I'm a litigation attorney, but did you also know that I used to teach cannabis law and policy at Seattle University's School of Law? Now, I've since handed off that class to Fabi Jimenez, one of my esteemed colleagues in the industry, but I wanted to give you a little taste of the history of the criminalization of marijuana in the United States. Now, this is a 4-hour lecture that's being condensed down into a few minutes, 2 2-hour classes, so we're going to move fast. We start in the early 1900s. States move first. By the mid-1930s, most have some form of restriction. The federal government watches and then steps in. Now, before the Marijuana Tax Act, the story is already being written. The Bureau of Narcotics under Henry Anslinger is looking for a new target after alcohol prohibition ends. He frames marijuana as a public menace and pushes lurid tales into the press. Reefer madness, anyone? Side note, early marijuana criminalization was fueled by xenophobia tied to Mexican immigration, first in the post-Mexican American War, then sharply after the 1910 Revolution. Border cities like El Paso moved first, a 1914 ordinance, and by the 1910s to 1930s, states adopted marijuana bans that were as much about policing Mexican laborers and jazz-age others as about the plant itself. That historic racism in even adopting the name marijuana is why you see shifts in states renaming it to cannabis, despite cannabis being both what we think of as marijuana in the classic sense, as well as what we consider hemp. Now, William Randolph Hearst's media empire amplifies those stories nationwide. Hearst also has heavy investments in timber and paper. Now, many writers argue that his newspaper's campaign aligned with protecting that business from hemp as a rival fiber. Scholars debate how direct that motive was, but no one disputes his papers helped sell the panic. Then we have the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. It doesn't outright ban cannabis, it makes lawful transactions practically impossible unless you secure tax stamps that are rarely issued, with criminal penalties on the back end. The scheme survives until the Supreme Court agrees with Timothy Leary, yes, that one, that complying would force self-incrimination, and that structure collapses. The legal architecture shifts, but the federal posture against marijuana remains hardened. Now, in case you're looking for a case cite on that, that's Leary v. U.S. 395 U.S. 6, a 1969 case. Now, in the 60s, it's politics, not pharmacology, that drive the next term. Richard Nixon rails against marijuana long before the Controlled Substance Act becomes law in 1970. He wants a tougher posture, and he is explicit in private conversations who he thinks the laws will hit. On May 26, 1971, Nixon's recorded saying, "Every one of those bastards that are for legalizing marijuana is Jewish. What the Christ is the matter with the Jews, Bob?" That is a quote that is on those White House tapes and reported contemporaneously when the tapes were released. Now, also in a 1994 published interview in 2016, Nixon's domestic policy chief is quoted saying that the drug war was used to target anti-war hippies and black communities. His family later questions the quote's accuracy, but historians note that that strategy fits with what the administration said and did elsewhere. Congress passed the Controlled Substances Act in 1970, otherwise known as the CSA. Cannabis gets placed on Schedule 1. Officially, that means a high abuse potential and no accepted medical use. We know that's not true now. Nixon then rejects his own commission's recommendation to decriminalize personal possession, which stated, "Within this framework, neither the marijuana user nor the drug itself can be said to constitute a danger to public safety." That's a direct quote. Law and order politics won the day. That decision sets the stage for mandatory minimums, aggressive policing, and asset forfeiture that would follow in the 1980s drug war. So where are we at now? In the US, adult use marijuana is legal in 24 states plus DC, and medical programs exist in 40 states plus DC and 3 territories as of June 26, 2025. This is the comprehensive medical count, not just low THC programs. Globally, full national legalization for adult use includes Uruguay, Canada, Malta, Luxembourg, and Germany. Several countries allow possession of private use without full commercial sales. Laws change fast, so be sure to check the current rules if you're traveling. But that's the arc. Early moral panic amplified by media power and federal bureaucracy, then a tax trap, then the drug war. States and countries have been unwinding that for years, but the federal label still lags. Now, I'll likely be posting more on how we got here in the future and the lagging effects of the drug war, so stay tuned. Until next time.